and welcome to the Jamie and Steven Show. Let's talk movies, music, and magic. So this is another like bonus one we're doing before we get into the big, era. We're getting so close to that, favorite era of everyone's, and we chose one that we thought would kind of represent the end of before Eisner, I would say, and this is like the beginning because it was obviously started around when he came into the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the title.
Sorry. Yeah, so the bonus episode this week is Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Although it's not part of the Disney animated classic, because the animation involved, it kind of saved the studios.
Yeah.
It had a big contribution to saving the studios, and it's like, okay, it's not part of the range, but it needs to be in there. For what we're doing, the history of Disney animation, it needs to be in there.
Yeah, and I think, Disney, very early on combined live action with animation,
Yeah.
all the way back to those Alice cartoons. And although we, could have picked other films, I just think that the live action combined with the animation, it's a mixture of the two mediums that Disney is so famous for, their movies as a whole, as well as obviously the parks. I think for the decade that we're in at the minute, this was definitely, it wasn't really, it was a no-brainer. So released in 1988, it's an hour and 44 minutes.
Okay, so quite a longer one.
Yeah. Not as long as Mary Poppins.
No, thank goodness. No.
And luckily, because of the story, I don't think it feels like an hour and three quarters.
No.
I would have said an hour and a half. Didn't realize it had that extra 15 minutes. So,
do you know what? I had to watch this film twice over the course of the time because the first time I started watching just the techniques that they were doing and just how brilliantly done it was. And then the second time I was like, I can't actually remember watching what was going on.
yeah.
I was too involved with how good things were. So I had to watch it a second time on this viewing just to actually watch the story.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with this film and it was one, I must have had it on video.
Came as a video double pack.
Yeah, with the baby cartoons or something.
With the shorts, yeah.
Yeah. And see, as a kid, this was like on religiously because I was really into like the Daffy Duck and the Bugs Bunny cartoons. And obviously they kind of had a comeback in the 90s because we had
Space Jam.
Yeah, Space Jam, like Tom and Jerry came back as well, like all those cartoons. So, having everything that I enjoyed as a kid in one film.
Yeah.
This film was on a lot. But obviously, when you're watching it as a kid, I think we've said this before, not paying attention to the graphics, or I don't even think I really understood completely what was happening in the story. I just enjoyed it. So now as an adult, sitting down and watching it, I enjoy it even more. Especially the story, because the story is actually really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I love like a detective, thriller-y, whodunit thing. So yeah, that's always a win for me. Right, so for those who don't know what the film's about, IMDb synopsis. When a
In fact, no,
cartoon,
just pause the podcast and go and watch the film and then come back.
yeah,
And
because
welcome
otherwise
back.
they'll be spoiled.
Yeah.
Right, so IMDb synopsis. When a cartoon rabbit is accused of murder, he enlists the help of a burnt out private investigator to prove his innocence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
is
that's very
exactly.
simple.
Yeah, there is other bits, but no, that is the gist.
So I went a little bit deep with
Oh,
my synopsis, shall we say.
okay.
And actually bear in mind that the film is made with live action cartoon, so two different types of characters already. Disney creates a film about segregation that could be a metaphor for race, gender, or sexuality.
Yeah.
And like as I say, with half of it in cartoon, you've kind of got Toontown, which is a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor for, you know, under the bridge on the wrong side, as it would be,
Yeah,
of
on the
the
wrong side
train
of the tracks.
tracks. And
Ghettos. Yeah.
yeah, so on that level, as I say, I went deep.
You did go deep.
Yes, I did. And the more the more I kind of got that into my mind, the more everything was. So when I came to look at the facts and the reason why the book was written, to find out it was about segregation,
Right, okay.
just was like, okay, I got it. I got
Yeah.
this.
Well done, Stephen.
I know. I must have had a grown-up day that day. Normal service resumed next week.
um, well, you probably won't then be surprised to know that on IMDb it's got a really good rating. It's got 7.7 stars. Which is, that's quite good.
Who's
Almost
not
eight.
voting it? 10 out of 10. Who's not
Don't
doing
know.
that?
I don't know. Was it me?
Would not be me either.
um, okay, so let's get into the people. You mentioned the book,
Mm.
and yeah, and that was written by Gary K. Wolfe.
Hmm.
Now, did you have any facts about him? I didn't write anything down. Is he English? Is he American?
Um, no, I knew that. So the original book is called Who Censored Roger Rabbit,
Yes, I've got that written down.
and he's done a few books based on the Roger Rabbit, and I think he did a prequel or a sequel. I'm just seeing if I can find it on my. I've literally got like 20 pages of facts. I'm not even joking.
Well, we'll get to it. I just
So
didn't know if you had one to mention now. But yeah, so that's the writer of the book, Who Censored Roger Rabbit, that the film's based on. The director of the film, and I always forget this. And every time I read it up, I'm like, oh, yes. It's Robert Zemeckis? Zemeckis or Zemeckis. How
I
would
would
you
have said
pronounce it?
I would
Zemeckis?
have said Zemeckis, yeah,
Right,
but
okay.
I
So,
don't know. So if it's wrong, I'll blame you.
okay. Robert Zemeckis, who directed Back to the Future.
Yes.
And that only came out 3 years before this. So he was the top director. Um I've not written it down, but Steven Spielberg is involved. I think he's a producer.
Yeah, so I can, if we go back in time a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of give the how the film got to be made,
Okay, go.
and
Before we
then
get to that.
that'll yeah, that would just because you'd be like, oh, that person. Um, so basically, it was Ron Miller.
Oh, your
Yes, oh
favorite.
yes. He saw the potential in Who Censored Roger Rabbit
Okay.
and acquired the rights in 81.
Wow.
Um, on top of that, two writers, Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman, wrote two versions of the script,
Okay.
both different from each other, and that was between 81 and 82. In 1982, Roger Zemeckis, we've already had that come, Zemeckis,
Zemeckis.
Zemeckis, he offered to be the director for it, but he had two previous box office bombs. So sorry, he was offered the role and then he was no. I'll say this again. So he wanted to do the film. He wanted to direct the film. However, he had two box office bombs and Disney declined. The two films were I Wanna Hold Your Hand and Used Cars, which I've never heard of. So
No, never heard of them.
in 1981 to 1983, so while this was going on, which was created by Daryl Van Sitters, who was the animation director and an animator on Fox and the Hound.
Okay.
Um, Originally, Roger Rabbit was played by Paul Rubens, who is on Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
And he would have been Locke in Nightmare Before Christmas, and he's Dennis in Teacher's Pet, which I've never watched. He's also the RX-24 in Star Tours, which is the original pilot of the ship.
yes.
Um, he's also he then came back to voice RX-24 in Star Wars Rebels, Droids in Distress.
Oh,
Yes. Eddie was originally played by Pete Renaday. Um, he's a lot more famous in like the parks and things. So
okay.
he was two of the bears in Country Bear Jamboree, and he was Abraham Lincoln in the Hall of Presidents. He did the voices.
Oh,
Um, in that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea submarine voyage thing,
okay. Yeah.
he's Captain Nemo, and he's Mark Twain on the Mark Twain Riverboat, which is a sore subject at the moment. He also voiced Mickey Mouse on albums in the 70s and the 80s.
Wow. And
And that
he
and he
was potentially going to play Eddie.
yeah, he did all this test footage.
Right.
And then
Okay.
Jessica Rabbit, just to keep on the Mickey Mouse kind of thing, was played by Russi Taylor.
Oh, wow. We
Minnie
know her.
Mouse.
Minnie Mouse. Yeah.
So that was what was all going on when Ron
Okay.
Miller was in charge, and that is what was happening.
So
And
this
then
is
early
post
80s,
pre Eisner.
yes. So
Right.
when Eisner came aboard, he loved the project,
I bet he did.
but thought it could be more, so revamped it
Hmm.
and approached Amblin Entertainment in
Yeah.
1985, which is
Which
where
is Steven Spielberg. Yeah.
he was going to pull the project though, because the budget could have been around $50 million.
Yeah.
And he was a bit like, we need to make this work, or
Mhm.
else it's getting pulled. And then they reduced it to 29.9 million, and Eisner gave it the go ahead.
Yes. Well, I have the actual cost written
Oh,
down.
yes. Go for it.
So it not only cost what did you say the budget was?
So the original budget was 50,000 and they managed to reduce it to 29.9
So we'll just
million.
say 30.
Yeah,
Okay. So as long as it stayed at 30, Eisner approved.
yeah.
Okay. So double it and add another 10 million, and that's how much it cost.
Wow.
Yeah, 70
I,
million.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, there is actually a so because this is part of Touchstone, so if you see a film in the 80s mainly, it does go into the 90s with silver screen partners on it.
Uh-huh.
It means that outside people have funded that film.
Okay.
And from basically the 80s, for all of the Disney animated classics in the 90s as well, um, they were part funded by them and they would have got their money back before the studios. And
Right. Oh, I never knew that.
Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and Michael Eisner were very big on that. And because the animation took off, as we know, um, they were a lot more happy to put money into the film.
Could that be why films, so what did you say they were called? Silver.
Silver screen partners or partnership.
So could their end be why there's product placement, or is that a separate thing?
It's probably a separate thing, only because it's not so much companies that are paying in. So George W. Bush was one of these. Yeah, and I did have other names, but I've not written it down for
Okay.
this because actually it was made for HBO. That's the whole point of it there. And Disney kind of got involved and Disney took over in a way. And
Okay.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the beginning of them kind of being like, do you want to fund us again? Because we can give you this amount of money back.
Okay.
And
Right.
then obviously Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King
Okay.
paid off.
Right.
So after they was given the go ahead, Jeffrey Katzenberg, your favorite,
Oh, yeah.
he basically said, um, if we was to do this as a mix of animation and live action, rather than just animation, then it will save the animation studio.
Okay.
Uh, and the film was then greenlit overall as part of the animated classic range. In an alternate universe, it would have gone Oliver and Company, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Little Mermaid.
Wow.
They then set out a contract with Spielberg. Spielberg would have creative control and a large percentage of the box office, whereas Disney would retain the merchandise rights.
Okay.
That kind of came back to bite them a little bit later on because of the parks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was actually Spielberg, not Disney. Spielberg convinced Paramount, Universal, and Warner Brothers to lend their characters. So I don't think any payments for the licenses of those characters happened.
Right. Okay.
And it was because of him.
Well, I've got a thing. I've got a fact about Warner Brothers.
Yeah, go for it. Because I feel like
Um,
all I've done is just talked and talked and talked.
no, it's fine. Yeah. So Warner Brothers would only allow use of their biggest cartoon stars if they got as much screen time as Mickey and Donald and so on. They also had a handshaked agreement that Disney would agree to allow their characters to feature in a future Warner Brothers project if it came to be. And when Space Jam was in production, Warner Brothers went to Disney and asked if they could use a character as a surprise guest at the
Mm.
end. And Disney flat out said no. And yeah, Warner Brothers nearly sued apparently and swore to never work with Disney ever again.
Wow.
Now, if I try and think about the time that this could have possibly come around,
So
um,
Space Jam's 96.
yeah. Now, Wells died in
Yeah.
94. And as we've both read in Bob Iger's book, Eisner did not do well after Wells died.
No, no.
And it could have been the point where he was struggling and it was becoming this erratic type person.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could have been while he was in hospital because we know he had a heart attack, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
After, because of the stress. because he wasn't willing to give. I don't want to give too much away because it's important when we get to the films
Yeah.
at that time, but it could all been to that because I think they were at the top of their game when Wells died, between opening a new park, the six Oscar wins and nominees, with Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin, and so on. And he obviously, thought, no, we needed you in the 80s because we were taking on a company that was nearly going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Now we're the biggest thing since sliced bread, which is really shitty.
Yeah,
Really shitty.
I mean, to me, my opinion of Eisner is depending on what year it is.
Yes, yes.
I think there is definitely, out of his 2 decades, roughly,
Uh-huh.
the first decade is where he's doing it right, basically.
But is that because he was working alongside Wells?
Yeah, and you got to base your own opinion, but yeah, I believe that's
Yeah, I
where
think
that
that.
is because when you take his second decade and the mistakes he made with California Adventure, Walt Disney Studios at Paris, he kind of made that issue there, and then I read it was around the time of they acquired the Muppets and things, so just after that, a few years, there was a lot of messing around with the parks about what could be funded, what can't be funded, and there was a big focus on merchandise rather than rides or experience, which we've seen recently as well. So I think he kind of needed someone to kind of bat off. But yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me that Disney said no, but it's just a cameo at the end of a film, really,
I
wasn't it?
know. That's all
I
they were
can't,
asking for.
I can't think of who it could be. 'Cause it's a basketball film.
Well,
Like,
I
which
would have assumed it would have been Goofy. It would have
yeah,
been
that's what I,
or Mickey because Goofy's done all those shorts about how to play
yeah,
golf, how to swim, how to ski.
yeah.
uh,
So he,
so he would have made more sense. But no, I've no doubt they probably would have asked for the big mouse.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, really, really shitty. And that would have, I mean, I like Space Jam anyway. Not
yeah,
now.
right.
It
No,
hasn't aged well.
hasn't aged
But
well, no. I do like it. I do like the film. But it's definitely of the 90s.
yes, and I loved it as a kid. And yeah, oh my God, if Mickey or Goofy had come out at the end of that, wow, I would have been, as a fan of both, I would have
Yeah,
been going berserk. I would have loved that in the cinema, seeing either of them. But yeah,
yeah.
shame. Right.
Um, just on that bit, sorry. So Terry Gilliam, sorry,
Yes.
who is a Monty Python.
Monty Python. Yes.
He was offered to direct the film, but declined due to the film being too technical. But
Right. Okay.
as soon as he declined it, he's always regretted it.
Yeah.
So when that film came out, he was like, damn.
Yeah.
But he was already feeling that before. And
Mm.
then in 1985, it was Robert Zemeckis returned after his success on Romancing the Stone, which I've never seen,
Yes.
and
Oh,
Back to the.
it's so good. So good. It's Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. It's actually on Disney Plus. So if
Oh,
anyone
okay,
hasn't seen it,
me.
it's on Disney Plus. And yeah, it's good.
And then Richard Williams was offered to direct the animated parts. Unfortunately, I didn't find out any more information about Richard Williams. I left my pad to come back to it. Oh no, I did. No, I
Oh,
did. Sorry. Richard Williams was openly disdainful of the Disney bureaucracy. He refused to work in LA. Um, the animation then had to be moved to Elstree Studios in England to
Hmm.
suit him. And it was Spielberg and Disney offered to distribute his film in that, basically to convince him to do the animation of this one. So he really had a bit of a hissy fit
Yeah.
about working on this film. So yes, I did find info.
Yeah, well, he's featured in the documentary that's on Disney Plus. So if anyone watches Roger Rabbit, or if they've seen the film, if you go to the extras, it's on there. I think it's about like 45 minutes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sit and watch that.
Oh, yeah, I always check.
Ah, no, see, I gave up
Yes.
because there was never anything there apart from a
No, I
GIF.
know most of them don't, but no, there has been the odd one. And yeah, that one's got one. Because that's how I remembered that obviously Steven Spielberg was involved because he speaks a lot in it.
Because there
Um,
used to be a program on Disney Plus called Prop Culture,
yes.
and it had a Roger Rabbit
It,
episode,
it
and
did,
it's
yeah.
gone. It's been taken down.
Oh,
I know.
I didn't do that.
I don't know who to blame on that one. It's not Eisner. I can't blame him, and we can't blame Katzenberg. Um,
And we can't blame Chapek.
we might be able to because it was around that time.
Right, shall we get into the cast?
Yes, yeah. I'll keep going here, there, and everywhere. So
Yeah, okay. Right, so Eddie Valiant, not Valant, Valiant. I was going to say Valant, but then I forgot to put a dot on my I. Yeah, Eddie Valiant is played by the amazingly talented Bob Hoskins, who sadly is no longer with us. He passed away, was it like a few years ago?
yeah, yeah. Because I always get him and oh, I'm gonna forget his name now because I think he's called Bob Hoskins. Is it Danny DeVito?
Okay, yeah, well, they're both smallish, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'd always so for years I thought it was Danny DeVito in this film,
Oh,
and then
right,
it was
okay.
Bob Hoskins, and I was like, of course it is.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah, I told myself off. Don't worry.
So a few of his films that he's done, Hook,
Yeah,
um, he
Mr.
plays
Smee.
Smee.
Yes.
Um, Long Good Friday, I think, is one of his most famous films among
Never
adults.
heard of it.
I haven't seen it personally, but I know, like my mum and dad's era, it was up there. And another one from my time is he played Mario in the Mario Brothers film,
Oh, which I've
which
not
apparently
seen.
he did for his son. So
I've
yeah,
written down, and I don't know whether it was for because I don't know when Hook was made. Um,
91.
91. Okay, so this is for Roger Rabbit then. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor, but lost out to Tom Hanks in Big.
Yeah, that would be about right.
Yeah, 1989.
Wow. Yeah, well,
Um,
he is good in this film. I mean, I've got a couple of like one or two about who was meant to or who was
go
offered
on
the.
then.
So Bill Murray,
Yes.
is that what you got round? Yeah, Bill Murray was the original choice, but couldn't get in contact. Yeah, they couldn't get in contact with him at the time.
Yeah, so I had to read further into this, and I need to make sure that I've got it right. But basically, the way I understand it is he doesn't have a secretary or anything like that.
Right.
So if you want to get in touch with him, you've either got to catch him on the phone, which you or you've
Ah,
got to meet him at when he's out in a pub or something.
right. Okay.
Which, to be honest, I can sympathize with because I'm not that contactable.
No, you're not.
And if I am contacted, I don't respond. So I'm like, I must admire his patience to the cause. Um, do you know who else was up for the role?
Well, I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Yeah, Harrison Ford.
Oh no.
That was Spielberg's choice when he came onto the project. However, Ford was too expensive.
Oh my God. Thank God.
Yeah, I other ones, and I don't know how I feel about these. So Eddie Murphy,
Um, mm,
I don't know if he'd be
no,
able to have played the straight character,
I know
whereas Bob
that's it because
Hoskins,
Eddie's not funny.
yeah.
That's
Um,
what Roger Rabbit's for.
Chevy Chase,
Oh no.
who really? Oh, I thought that would have been quite a good.
No, no, I can't see that at all. Do you know what it is as well? It's the height. I think
Yeah,
Bob
he's
Hoskins was the perfect height.
yeah. I'll just run through some of the others. So Sylvester Stallone, I
Oh,
don't
no way.
know. Ed Harris and Don Lane, Charles
Ed Harris, maybe.
Charles Grodin or Robert Redford,
Oh, Robert
and
Redford, that would have been good.
my the one that intrigues me the most, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Yeah, like when I saw that, like, and I was like, ah, didn't get that version. It'd been a
Yeah,
different
that would have
version.
been
It would
a
have been,
really, I mean, not trying to take anything away from Bob because he does play the role really
yeah,
well.
yeah.
And I couldn't imagine anybody else doing it. However, Jack Nicholson would have been so interesting.
So for the film that came out, Bob Hoskins is perfect.
Yeah,
However, if Bob Hoskins wasn't there, if they'd have done it with Jack Nicholson, it would have also been perfect.
I know, but it would have
But
been
they would have
different.
been different films.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely
I
not taking anything
would
from
love
Bob
to have
Hoskins.
seen Jack Nicholson try and talk to the guy that plays the voice of Roger Rabbit
Yeah,
because we know, well, we'll get to it, but he does drive Bob nuts. Could you imagine him and Jack Nicholson on set?
yeah.
Whoa. Um. Okay. The next character we need to talk about is the one that almost steals the film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Judge Doom,
Yes.
who's played by Christopher Lloyd. And for those who have no idea who Christopher Lloyd is,
Do you know
for
what?
your
Just stop listening to the podcast now. We don't need that kind of people listening to this podcast. We can do without you.
yeah. So Back to the Future, he
Yep.
plays Doc. He also plays Fester in
Mhm.
Addams Family. He's also the voice of Rasputin in Anastasia. I mean, he's been in so many. I mean, one of his earliest films, speaking of Jack Nicholson, he's got a part in, I think it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm sure he's in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know he was in The Mandalorian recently. He played
Was
Commissioner Hellgate. Hellgate.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, he's a baddie. He's good as a baddie.
I, yeah, I mean, I've got some alternative casting for that, but can't, I can't see anyone else doing it.
Do you know the one I've got written down that nearly had the role? He could be the only other person I think could have done the role.
Go on then.
Tim Curry.
Yes,
Yeah, Tim Curry auditioned.
he did.
But Zemeckis, Spielberg, Eisner, and Katzenberg found he was too terrifying,
Yeah, it's too scary. Now,
which I find hilarious because Doctor Doom has got to be one of the scariest characters I've ever seen as a kid on film.
so to put it out there into the world, when I first watched this film, I had to turn it off at the end when he removes the glasses because there's something about that image. Even
The
now,
eyes.
it's
Yeah, the eyes.
it's done so well. And when I was watching it these times, like the first time, I've not written any notes about Judge Doom because I'm like, he's terrifying as a human being. And then when he's like, it's got the eyes and the
Mm.
voice,
Oh,
it,
that voice.
it's just, yeah,
Oh, it was imprinted in my brain. That was an
yeah,
image I never forgot for years and years.
yeah. I had to turn the video off. That was, and again, when I watched it a few times after, I knew that bit was coming.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
And I
and
mean, the bit where he first, like, he uses the ooze for the first time.
with the
Is it the
boot,
ooze? Yeah, the boot. Oh,
oh,
I used to always cry as a kid. I hated that bit.
yeah,
Hated that scene. It's awful.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it goes back to that kind of segregation,
Mm,
and it's based on that basically. And
yeah,
it's like the cartoons are the cartoons represent what slavery was in America in that
yeah,
period or a bit earlier, and with slavery almost being abolished, and there's that kind of racial war that was kind of going on where one race was seen as inferior to the other, and
mm,
unfortunately still goes on. That just harks back to things in films like To Kill a Mockingbird, and
mhm.
it it's such a powerful moment, but it's built in truth. And
Yeah. And
yeah,
even though it's a cartoon, it's still horrific to watch. It's still awful to watch, I think.
just an innocent cartoon shoe that
Yeah.
is no fault of his own. And I'm sure he comes out of a packing case as well. So he's
Yeah, I think
clearly
it gets
been
knocked
shipped
over.
over.
Yeah, it gets knocked over and they all escape. And the police are trying to put them away. But this one loose shoe is like hopping about still. And he rubs up against Doom's foot. And then Doom picks him up. And it's like,
It,
that's how he was chosen
yeah.
to die with
It,
that.
I
Oh,
mean, that wouldn't be in a Disney film now.
oh my God, no. But yeah, the fact that they thought Tim Curry was too scary. I mean, I would have loved to have seen that audition
I
because,
mean, in
again,
another,
he's another one that is such a good villain.
oh, Tim Curry is just on his own level.
And I mean, he would have done Legend by now, where he plays. Have you seen Legend?
No, no.
Oh. Again, I think it's on Disney Plus, but it's Tom Cruise.
Hmm.
It's a fantasy film. It's like if you like Labyrinth and Dark
Okay.
Crystal, you would have watched The Legend. And yeah, Tom Cruise is in it, and yeah, Tim Curry's the baddie, and he's like where you're what is it called when it's like half horse, half human? What's that called again? Is it a mentor?
Yeah, I
No.
think it's all right. All I can think of is Minotaur, but that's half like bull and half human.
Yeah, it's that.
And answers on a postcard anyway.
Yeah, so he's got like he's supposed to be like a devil. He's red. He's got these giant black horns. So he's kind of like half bull, half human. But yeah, and oh my god, he's so scary.
Mm.
He's so good. And but yeah, so he would have done that before this. But yeah. Oh, but anyway, but no, I mean Christopher Lloyd was perfect as Judge Doom. I mean, in fact, the cast in this was spot on.
Yeah. I mean, other people who were considered for Judge Doom was John Cleese.
Oh no.
No. Roddy McDowell,
Oh no.
Eddie Deason.
I don't know who that is.
No, I don't think he did. Um, and Sting. And
What,
Chris,
as in the singer?
the singer.
Well, he would have just done Dune. He was in the original Dune, and that would have been out by this point. So he obviously was doing the film rounds, but no,
And I'd have
no,
thought it a bit too young at that point.
I know.
Um, and Christopher Lee turned it down.
Oh,
Yeah, we have alternative versions of this film which would be equally as good.
I know. So Jack Nicholson is Valiant, and Christopher Lee is Judge Doom. That would have been a different film.
Yeah, or Tim Curry as Judge Doom as well. Like
Yeah,
we're almost going into Batman Dark Knight territory.
I know.
Like, but yes, they're those.
Okay. Dolores, who
Yeah.
is Eddie Valiant's love interest.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of glad that they don't really focus too much on sort of romance, but she, has a really good part to play in this, in the sense of, her bar, and you know she links the past and
Yeah.
why Eddie is the way he is now. Um, and yeah, and yeah, no, I do. I like her. She's yeah. I think she could have been in it a little bit more. Um,
Yeah, I always thought that she kind of disappeared.
yeah,
Um, but actually, I think that's more because of the actress rather than the character, because obviously she's so good at that role.
yeah,
You're watching her. I mean, there's so much to look at in this film,
yeah,
and for one of the side characters to be so watchable and enjoyable, and as her, she does a really, really good job, and
yeah. I think because as well, she's like, she knows what happened to him,
yeah,
and you're waiting for her to reveal the
yeah,
past. So I think that's why you're intrigued, like you want to, and yeah, she's good, and she's like got this tough, broad, personality. She's running this bar full of working guys that are drunk all the time,
hmm.
and she's got to put up with that bloody train every day.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, she's played by Joanna Cassidy, and her most notable role is in Blade Runner, which stars
I
Harrison
saw.
Ford, directed by Ridley Scott. And yeah, that would have, again, I think that was 86, 85, 86. That film came out. So that had been, so yeah, she would have been up, you know, this would have been her time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, right, Roger Rabbit
Hmm.
um, is played by Charles Fletcher,
Yeah, I'd have Felicia is how I would have
Fleischer,
pronounced it.
Fleischer.
Felicia. Yeah.
Um, if I hadn't have watched the documentary on the making of the film, I wouldn't know what he looked like.
Hmm.
But he has been in Zodiac,
Yeah.
which is Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
It's a detective thing. I think Robert Downey Jr. is in it as well. He's in Back to the Future,
Yeah. He's
so obviously
Terry.
he's got that. Yeah, he's got that connection to the director.
Mhm.
And Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I didn't really. I don't think I've ever watched those films. So,
I have, but I couldn't tell you who he is or anything. In them. Um,
um, yeah, I mean, very talented. I mean, that voice is so unique.
and it's such a good imitation of the Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck,
Yeah,
Sylvester, that kind of Mel, it's Mel Brooks, isn't it? The that what
Yeah,
and it well, but then it's not an imitation of it either. It's a homage.
yeah, homage. Yes, definitely. Um, okay, it goes a bit too extreme, some might say, with the role. Almost to the point where he's method acting. But yeah, I think we'll get to that with the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also voiced Benny the Cab and Greasy and Psycho, the weasels.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh wow, he had fun in the sound booth then.
yeah, just him talking to himself.
Um, and the last character that I thought we would talk about is probably the most iconic character, I would say,
Hmm.
from this film.
Yeah.
And that is Roger's wife, Jessica Rabbit,
Hmm.
played by the fabulous Kathleen Turner, and singing voice,
Chandler's dad.
yes, Chandler's dad. And the singing voice is Amy Irving,
Yes.
who played Carrie in the film, the horror film. And
Is that
she's in,
her?
yes. No. Sorry, she doesn't play Carrie because that's Sissy Spacek. It's she plays the friends, I think, from school. Or yeah, I think she plays somebody from the high school. But yeah, she's got like curly hair, wild curly
Oh.
hair. But yeah, and she's in Yentl
Oh,
with
okay.
Barbara.
Yeah.
She's the one that
Oh,
loves Barbara's character. But then Barbara, I think, or she's in love with the one that Barbara's in love with. I don't know their character names, but yeah, she's in the triangle of yeah, whatever. But she's in Yentl anyway.
I've never seen Yentl.
I've seen it when I was younger, but I don't really remember it.
Mm.
But yes, but no, the speaking voice, Kathleen Turner. So we mentioned Romance in the Stone earlier. Yeah, Kathleen Turner's in that. She's also in War of the Roses. It's also with Michael Douglas. The sequel to Romance in the Stone, Jewel of the Nile. All three of those films, it's Kathleen Turner, Michael Douglas, Danny DeVito. What else has she been in? War of the Roses. She was
I know she's
in.
been in Serial Mum.
Oh yes, you mentioned
She's in,
Friends.
yeah, she's in Dumb and Dumber 2.
Oh, is she? I never watched that.
And there's, do you know what? And so when I was finding the facts out for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I was actually in the car and I turned to Luke and I was like, this is a fact that I forget every time that Kathleen Turner is Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah,
Like, I just forget that it's her.
I
And
know.
it's because
I think it's
I'm so
because they
used
just
to,
don't look anything alike. Like she doesn't look anything like the character.
no, I mean, she was obviously slimmer, shall we say, in the 80s and the
Yes,
90s.
but
Um,
even when she was slim in that time, she wasn't. She didn't have anything close to the figure that they draw
no,
for Jessica Rabbit.
no.
But yeah.
I don't have any other like alternative casting for that. But Jessica Rabbit was available as a meet and greet.
Oh, sure.
The scariest mask you have ever
I was
seen.
going to say, yeah, there was
Yeah.
no way we'd be able to find an actual female that looked
No.
like her.
Um, at the Disney parks, I believe this was in Disney Springs, or what was Disney, what is Disney Springs now. She had her own shop called Jessica's that
Oh,
sold just Jessica Rabbit merchandise.
I
from
thought you were
before.
going to say lingerie.
No, no, but it should have. Um,
It should have.
it should. And Jessica Rabbit has her own website, and it's
Oh
one
my
of the
God.
longest running.
Wow. And what's the website for?
Her, so it just anything. So if there's like a lounge flick, or if there's a new release on Blu-ray and Jessica Rabbit's involved, there's any. So when the pop vinyls came out, it was like that kind of thing. But prior to that, it's just got facts about the character. It's got facts about Kathleen Turner, and it's a neat website.
Okay.
There also may be a link to this episode of the podcast if they accept.
Right. Well, that's all I had written down for cast. I felt that they were the most important.
Yeah, I mean, I have just two little ones. Sorry, three little ones. So Richard Williams, who was the director of the animation,
Yeah.
also voiced Droopy.
Okay.
One of the Bullets, and the brother Jim Galliant, is played by Jim Cummins,
Oh, that's it.
who is
The voice of Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Oh,
So, um, and the other thing that I've just put this in because it's a personal little fact that pleases me was Silvers plays a cameo as the director right at the
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah.
It is a prank, Spielberg and Zemeckis, because Silvers and Eisner hated each other,
Yeah.
and I approve.
Yeah. From their Paramount days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Apparently, it was difficulties involving the making of 40 Hours.
I don't know about the reasons why, but yeah, I was.
Yeah. Silver shaved off his beard, paid his own expenses, and kept his name out of all the initial cast sheets. When Eisner was told who it was after the film screened, he reportedly shrugged and said he was pretty good.
Yes, I already gave him a compliment in the after watching the film. I mean, to credit to Eisner though, what are you going to say? What
Oh, I
can you
know.
say at that point?
I know. Yeah. And I suppose at the end of the day, I suppose Silver could say, well, I got one last jab. But then all Eisner has to remember, is, well, I'm CEO of Disney, so
Yeah.
yeah. Right. Did you have someone else or
No, I've got no one else there. Mine's just very like alternative, um like quite a few alternatives, and then there's a few more of the like the history of the making film. So
okay.
half of that as well. So yeah, I'll go on where what you've got and just
Yeah, we'll just
check up.
dive in. So the first test audience was mostly 18 to 19-year-olds who hated it. And it was due to the cartoon at the start. After almost the entire audience walked out, Zemeckis wouldn't change a thing. So he was adamant. So, but I mean, did they really think 18 to 19-year-olds were going to sit and watch that film?
No, I mean, this leads into one of mine is so basically Zemeckis had final approval on this film.
Good.
Even Eisner had complained that was that it was too adult in theme. There was a lot of innuendos and
Uh-huh.
basically wasn't suitable for Disney. And he had asked for things to be removed or alterations, and Zemeckis basically had final approval and refused.
Mm.
And it was Katzenberg that suggested to release it under Touchstone, which was initiated and created by Ron Miller, which I am gonna every time we say Touchstone, Ron Miller's
It was
name in
Ron
there.
Miller. Right. Um, so every frame of the movie that featured a mixture of animation and live action had to be printed up as a still photograph. An animator would then draw the particular illustration for that frame on tracing paper, set it on top of the photo. Then, sorry, I can't read my writing. Then the drawing had to be hand coloured. Once that was done, the drawing then was composited back into the original frame using an optical printer. So I would say they've not gotten the caps at this point. That
No,
computer animation thing that they make for So, and obviously this would have probably cost money as well. So this wouldn't have helped the budget going over.
well, basically talking about budgets, around this point, so when I
Mm.
mentioned about Eisner complaining and other bits, the budget was up to at that point 40 million, and Eisner uh, basically wanted to close down the production again, and it was Katzenberg, out of respect for Spielberg,
Mm-hmm.
refused.
Right.
So I actually think at this point of Disney history, maybe Katzenberg is the one that's kind of driving this new era.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on this film, he's got what he's good at,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's trying to lead with it. Like, because I'm seeing a lot of, well, Eisner wanted this, but it was Katzenberg that ended up doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
But then again, he's come from live action films. They both did.
yeah,
So he's obviously a lot more comfortable seeing to a live action film. I know there is
yeah,
animation in it, but that's been done in London.
yeah,
Or
that's on the other side of the bond.
so in terms of a film set and whatnot, this is obviously Katzenberg where he's most comfortable. It was in the animation that he wasn't
Yeah,
comfortable,
and it
which we
also
do
goes,
get to.
and it goes back to what we were saying earlier in the podcast, where Michael Eisner seems to need someone to bat against,
Mm-hmm.
because that's, about three times he tried to close this production down.
Yeah.
And each time someone kind of stopped him, and it was Katzenberg for the majority of that. And again, it could have been anyone in that post rather than Katzenberg. It could have been Frank Wells. He needed someone to bat to and from. Um, I think it's just another example of that potentially.
Yeah. Getting back to the animation, so I wrote down there was 326 animators working on the film. 82,080 frames of animation were drawn, including storyboards and concept art. So almost as much as an animated, like a
Well,
full animated film.
thinking of it, there's very, very few scenes in this film that are
Yeah.
not do not feature animation. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the opening. Well, it's not quite the opening scene. It's when we first get to see Eddie and he's in the office, and
Yeah, in
uh,
the camera As, going over all his things on the desk.
And well, no, it's where he's in the office with the film producer, which I can't think of his name right now.
Oh,
Um,
Acme. No,
no,
Acme, the guy that Jessica's got the photo taken with.
it's around that time, and it's Dumbo appears at the window, and
Yes.
as he comes out and walks down the stairs, there's just so much busyness in the background with
Yeah.
animated extras.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to do that. He could have just walked down those steps.
Yeah.
So I would have. It's almost like it is an animated film with live action
Live
in
action.
the animation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, so to get an idea of acting to characters that aren't there, Hoskins studied his 3-year-old daughter playing with her imaginary friends.
Hmm.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting because wasn't I mean actors I mean this is not the first film that actors have had to perform in front of something that's not there. But up until this point, because they weren't that popular and done as much, and there's probably thousands of actors up until then that didn't have to do that. But the ones that obviously did do films where this happens, there was no like training, and they didn't really have. It was kind of like, well, we'll do our best, but you kind of have to figure it out yourself. But yeah, and then which brings me to that guy, Fleischer, that plays
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit, where he goes to the extreme. And he has a suit made, a Roger Rabbit outfit made, and he plays the voice at the side on set and acts out and is there physically for Bob to have something to work with, albeit driving Bob Hoskins nuts at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too fond of that. I think if I had all of that, I'd be like, all right.
Yeah, because see, when I watched the documentary, like nobody knew that wasn't a thing that was discussed. Like, oh, do you think you could come on set and sort of he did that off his own back because he'd already recorded his things in the studio. He'd done his voice work, and so he thought of that himself, like, okay, I'm gonna still come on set, even though I don't have to be here because my role's done. But instead he came on and he obviously thought he was helping. No, I mean, don't get me
Yes.
wrong, like Bob does speak and he said, like, I think he says something like, I thought this guy was nuts, because he didn't know that was the voice of Roger Rabbit,
No,
because I don't think he
it's just
expected, yeah, I don't think he expected to see him on set.
some random guy dressed in a rabbit outfit.
Yeah, it appears. But obviously, because he does the voice,
Yeah.
he's at the side, I think, of like where the director is, and he's doing the voice offset. Bob then obviously realizes, oh my God, yeah, this is the real Roger Rabbit. But yes, the early days of method acting.
It's funny you should say it because I mean, in the original Doctor Who, there was a little robot dog, K9, and the guy who voiced him, John Leeson, would in rehearsals get down on all fours and pretend to be the dog, and
Oh,
would go around the studio with the other actors, and they used to take it to some extremes, which I don't know if they did anything like this on that film, but if there were kids around and they were filming, the doctor Tom Baker would get like a crossword out and would ask K9 for the answer to fall down or whatever it is, and this actor who was behind them would do the voice back but over the microphone so it came out the dog. So any kids would be sat there watching them, literally Doctor Who and K9 doing a crossword together. So if anyone was watching Bob Hoskins and this giant, what I assume 6 foot rabbit, it
Yeah,
must have
because
been a very surreal moment.
yeah, because he is a tall guy. Not unusually tall, but
Yeah.
I think he's taller than Bob.
Yeah. Well, Dolores, I think, was taller than Bob.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
she was. Um, right. Um, Bob Hawk. We'll continue on Bob.
yeah.
Uh, he claimed that Jessica Rabbit was not yet sketched by the animators when filming Wrapped, and he had no idea what she would look like. He was told to think of his ideal sexual fantasy, and apparently said it was nowhere near what Jessica turned out to be.
I
Yeah,
mean, she is proportioned.
very,
No
yeah,
one said that she was correctly proportioned.
no, no,
Um, but there are certain portions there. Um,
yes,
I mean, what I find interesting is that the red dress that she wears is based on the Marilyn Monroe's dress in I
some
think
like
it's
it hot.
yeah, I can't remember if it's that one or the one she's got the same dress basically. Yeah.
Yeah, but weirdly enough, in some like it hot, it's black and white. But you know the dress is sequined and
It
it's
must
got
be
a low
gentlemen
back.
preferred
It must have been what?
gentlemen prefer blondes
Oh right, okay.
because that one I'm sure that one's in color. But yeah, it's I mean obviously the artists designed Jessica on women of that era as well and just
Yeah,
emphasized certain features.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Two
yeah.
in
I mean, I
particular.
can definitely see influence from like Jane Seymour, and obviously Marilyn Monroe. Um,
Betty
so
Davis.
I don't know about Betty Davis. She's not exactly glamorous, is she?
The eyes.
The eyes, really?
Yeah, Jessica Rabbit has her eyes kind of closed, doesn't she? And she's like,
Yeah, maybe. But yes, obviously those actresses of the 50s definitely, you can see that is what they were influenced by.
yeah.
I'd like to think it was that and not Playboy, but
Oh, it was. It was. They went on record, and the reason why Betty Boop is in the film is because Jessica Rabbit was meant to be a Betty Boop kind of character.
okay.
Um, because obviously in those early days, Betty Boop was practically a porn star.
Oh yeah,
So, there's because the original antagonist was either going to be Jessica Rabbit or Baby Herman,
right.
because Judge Doom doesn't actually appear in the book. He's
Okay,
the film. So the character of Jessica Rabbit is meant to be this femme fatale.
right. I mean, she's a great character. I know we're obviously like making fun of a little bit of how, but she's iconic. Obviously, we can't deny it's because of her look.
Yeah,
It, there is no other character that has come close to her design, and so she is a very very memorable, and yeah, like most people would see her and know her name as well.
yeah,
But she is an interesting character in the film. So take
yeah,
away how she looks, like the whole thing where you think, that she's having an affair, and then it's
That's okay.
turns out she's playing patty cake, with acne, or acne.
Acme.
Yeah,
It's the coyote, Wildy
yeah,
Coyote, isn't it? That
yeah. Which is so funny, you know, and
I
yeah.
mean, it's ridiculous in a way, but at the same time, it it suits. I mean, it must be a euphemism for something. It's got to be. But what I because it could also just be patty cake.
I know. I think they obviously, they must have been in a room thinking, right, what could we make it out that they're actually doing, um, rather than kissing or having sex, because it's a kids' film. And somebody must have said, well, what about something that kids play in the playground? And but it's like when Roger's going through the photos and he's saying patty cake,
And
patty
then
cake, patty cake, and the pictures are flying everywhere. And it's like, really? That's what you're upset about? Yeah,
it's something
no,
they did together.
I know. But yeah, but that's something, one of the many things that went over children's heads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so the ugly version of Jessica Rabbit. Um,
Oh
Lena,
man.
yeah, Lena Heine, who she plays the hideously ugly Toon, whom Eddie mistakes for Jessica Rabbit, is based on the creation of the same name by artist Basil Wolverton. She was first conceived in 1946. So she was an actual cartoon character from back in the day, created by, Wolverton. So obviously that must be, outside of Disney.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know her. And I thought that she was just done for the film. I didn't realize that she was based on a real character.
Yeah, I thought she was just for the film. I was
Yeah.
today years old.
Yes. The piano duet. I wrote this
Yes.
down. That was storyboarded by Richard Williams and your favourite. Can you guess?
Mr.
Chuck
Grant.
Jones?
Joe Grant.
No, not Joe Grant. Chuck
Not Joe
Jones.
Grant.
Chuck Jones.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
He would have done Daffy,
Yeah.
and Richard obviously would have done Donald.
I mean, that scene is one of just to use a word that's used all the time, it's iconic
Yeah.
because the interaction between those two characters and the fact that they're different studios and the fact that they're both ducks and they're so well known and they're so similar but different.
I know.
It, yeah, that is just a moment that you live for. That is like, yeah, I can't even think of anything that's kind of been that iconic apart from maybe the Spider-Man when you had the other actors come in.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. That is definitely as close as you would get.
Yeah,
And the
because
fact that, it's a scene that shows that, those two studios, A, had success in their own right,
yeah,
and B, did have similar characters, and that ultimately, you know, they're not meant to be friends, but yet they work really well together.
and it's that kind of they try and outdo each other, the two
Yeah,
characters, which
they
represents
represent.
the studios trying to. But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, they're just as good as each other.
yeah,
So
exactly, exactly. I think I'm really done with. Oh yeah, no. There is two more things, and then all
Yeah.
my facts are done. So
Yeah.
Bob Hoskins' son didn't talk to him after seeing the movie for 2 weeks, because he believed the characters were real, and he was really upset that his dad hadn't let him meet them. How
Oh,
cute is that? I mean, I don't know how old his son was, but I'm assuming that he must have been like a toddler, or
yeah.
maybe up till about 5. Because yeah, I know Finlay, when he was 4 or 5, he would have been really angry with me, seeing me with, Mickey Mouse, and asking, why didn't I get to meet Mickey Mouse?
One someone I with about 2 years ago, she had a 3-year-old, and he obviously knew I liked Disney, and he'd ask his mum to ask me questions like, "Oh, does Stephen know such and such?" Because he thought that his mum and me worked for Disney.
Oh,
And when I was at Disneyland Paris, I stood in front of the castle, and I took a video, and I just said, "Oh, I'm ever so sorry. I'm going to be late into work. The traffic's really bad," and there was like the old cars coming past, and
uh-huh.
it was just busy around. And then we took a picture with, I think it was Mickey Mouse, and it was just an hello kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yes, I can understand that a young child would be like, um, "Where was my in?"
Oh, right. Well, my last fact um is to do with Warner Brothers again. They wanted their characters to look as they currently did in the 80s, but the
Okay.
filmmakers wanted to stay true to the era, which was the 40s, and have them as they would have looked then.
Mm.
Um, so Zemeckis had dummy footage sent, and he used what he wanted. So yeah.
I mean, it's clear that he wanted, obviously, the film to be the way that he saw it, like it
Yeah.
was his vision. Um, you mentioned that obviously he wanted it to be similar to how it was in the 40s rather than the 80s.
Mhm.
One of the little bits that I had at the end was that the film is set in 1947. However, a Mr. Toad from the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad appears, which wasn't released until 1949.
Oh, so a little bit of a mishap there.
So yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, this situation with Zemeckis, I mean, he clearly butts heads with a few people,
Mm,
and he clearly just thought, you know, bugger it. I'm going to do it my way anyway. These executives and heads can, try and tell me what to do all they want, but unless they fire me, I'm just going to do it anyway.
yeah, and good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he was clearly determined, strong-willed.
Mhm.
He had a vision in his mind, and he didn't let, you know, the suits, as they would say, uh,
Yeah.
get in the way of making the film that he wanted to make. I can't really imagine Spielberg being an issue, but clearly, Disney's side and the other studios that had to be involved, they
Mm.
clearly. Pardon me, sorry. Oh,
It it's almost like he was saying, "Do you know what? I'm not going to please any of you, so I'm just going to do it my way."
yeah. I mean, okay, the only thing that I would obviously question is how much he goes over budget.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, to go 40 million more.
Yeah.
Uh, I think clearly there was lack of communication in regards to exactly what would need to be spent.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Um
That was the food van. That's what that was. Like they've had to pay all of these actors, extras.
oh, but yeah, but no, that is all my facts. But you've got a few more though, don't
Yeah,
you?
I do. I've got a few, just a few extra when I got them. So, um, one of the concepts for Judge Doom was that he was going to have a cartoon vulture sat on his shoulder, but this would have been too challenging and too expensive.
Okay.
So there was consideration about the budget about that. Like, sorry, we can't put that vulture on there. We've overspent by 50%, 100%.
Yeah.
Uh,
Plus, it didn't need.
no, it didn't need
Didn't
it at
need it,
all. That
no. And
no.
it would have taken away the the twist as well. You know, when we come to
Yeah,
discover that he is actually a toon.
because he's meant to hate tunes. So why
Yeah,
has he got a pet? Yeah.
yeah.
The weasels, which are based on the ones in The Wind in the Willows,
Uh-huh.
which we mentioned before, was actually going to be based on the Seven Dwarfs with their names.
Oh,
So it was meant to be stupid, smartass, greasy, wheezy, psycho, and then sleazy and slimy. But those two were written out.
that's quite good, that.
Wheezy is the only female one, all the others are male.
Okay.
And I believe she is the only one with a belly button.
Right. But again, was it because of the cost that they decided not to go to that extreme?
I think it was just a case of it didn't need it.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong, they are in a couple of big scenes, you know, like the apartment scene when he's handcuffed to Roger,
Yeah,
uh,
I mean,
and when they're in the car, you know, but there's not, is there seven of them?
no, there's only five. So
Yeah, I thought there
Sleazy and
was.
Slimy were written out.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, yeah, I don't.
No,
Like,
but yeah, I mean that would have been a nice touch.
yeah,
But you know, a sort of nod to the first film that would have been good, but no, it didn't need it.
no. The other bits that I have was so Benny the Cab was
Yeah.
originally meant to be a Volkswagen Beetle, and was meant to be Herbie, which has so many timeline inaccuracies.
Yeah, I was going to say that would not
Like,
be the 40s.
yeah, that's so. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Working titles for the film includes Murder in Toontown,
Oh,
um, Toons,
yeah.
um, Dead Toons Don't Pay Bills, The Toontown Trial, Trouble in Toontown, and Eddie Goes to Toontown.
No, no, none
Yeah,
of those work. No, I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit straight away says it all in the title. You know
yeah,
that we've got a lead character name and we know it's about being set up for
yeah.
what we don't know.
And it's a
So
detective, and
it's a
it's
detective. So
yeah.
yeah, it's all in that title. So yeah, no, that's
I've got a bit of a behind the scenes making of fact. So
okay.
Jessica Rabbit's dress, the way it sparkles, is done by shining a light through a scratched up plastic bag.
Oh my God.
So it's just recorded as
Wow.
like a negative kind of thing, like the cornflake snow,
Yeah.
and then applied to the dress. And got two more. bits. So we mentioned earlier on about the shoe that is dipped and killed.
Yes. Yeah.
The voice is Nancy Cartwright, who voices Bart Simpson.
I thought I recognized that name.
Also voiced Chucky in the Rugrats.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. And then for the film, as I say, I like to go through all like the VHS and things.
Yeah.
So it was actually released on TV on the Disney Channel in 1990.
Mhm.
But its VHS first VHS release was 1989. Its DVD release was 1999, Blu-ray 2013, and 4K was 2021, and it was on Disney Plus from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, they appear in the parks. There is the uh, Roger Rabbit Toontown ride in California, which
Uh-huh.
is really, really good.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It is really good. It's still one of those like because you're sat in the cab, Benny the cab, and you're kind of driving around
Hmm.
and you've got like different things and it's one of those animatronic drive-through rides.
Yeah.
But it's done in a way similar to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So you kind of spin off to one side, and then there's like a bit where you skid in oil, so you turn round, and
Oh, that's good.
yeah, simple but really good.
Yeah.
Um, Roger Rabbit could be found at the parks as a meet and greet, and I believe he was there at opening in Paris.
Yes. Well, he still makes an appearance when Disneyland Paris do special
Hmm.
things. So the most recent one I can think of that I know he was there for was at the end of Disneyland Paris's 30th, and there was a cast member party after hours.
Hmm.
So like an annual pass party, but it was for
Yeah.
cast members. And Eddie Valiant and Roger Rabbit were two of the special characters that they brought out for cast members.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've never seen him at the parks.
Well, I know that he was there when, although I don't have a photo with them, but he was part of the character choices at the time of opening of Disneyland Paris because he's in the daytime parade and he has his own float. And I've got photos. Um, and I think he's like, is it got an aeroplane or more? I think it might be the cab. I can't remember. But yeah, it was all the daytime parade from not that I can really remember
Mm.
what it was like, but from the photographs I've got, it focused on the which you've mentioned before in previous episodes, the like Saturday cartoons, the Saturday
Mm.
morning,
Yeah.
because there's a DuckTales float. Gummy Bears is also in the parade that I see, and Rescue Rangers, and like Mickey is, I'm sure he's in an airplane. I'm sure he's like a pilot.
Do you know what? As you were speaking, I was texting my mate Bob, and I
What
said,
saying,
"Look,
Bob, you need to bring this back.
you need to bring them back. You know, like just have Roger Rabbit just walking to keep Jessica Rabbit hidden wherever she's
Oh
hidden
yeah,
because that's
yeah.
weird.
No, we don't need her.
And we definitely do not need a Judge Doom,
No,
but have
she's
Roger Rabbit. Let's have him back in the parks, in the parades. Let's have him because it's coming up to how many years? It would be 40 years in
4 years time.
yeah. So they've just had a because there was a ornament last year.
Yeah, for 35.
So for 40 years, come on, let's get them. Let's get these characters out. There was meant to be a Roger Rabbit 2, which was going to be a prequel. And
Okay.
it went through multiple different stages of production and like different storylines, and it just never happened. So it was
Okay.
never officially cancelled. It's just never happened.
Right.
So
Oh,
somewhere in those Disney vaults, there is a prequel. I think it focuses on when Roger met Jessica.
okay.
Because I believe in the book, Jessica Rabbit is a a spy in the Second World War,
Okay.
and I think she is a German, like double agent.
Right.
So she's an American who is spying on Germany, but being a Germany thinks that she's spying on America for them.
Yes. Yeah, we did have them. Yeah.
Um, I haven't read the book, and actually, when I was looking for my notes, I was seeing if the book is available, and it is, but not widely.
Oh,
So it might be a second-hand copy somewhere.
I mean, I think the film is fine as it is.
Yeah, it definitely didn't need anything else. And
And I think that they're they're past that. I think the time for them to do that is gone.
yeah, although
Um,
they did Hocus Pocus too, like, I mean, it was awful, but they still did it.
yeah, but at least all like the actors are still alive.
I suppose although
And they're
if
not
this is
like,
a prequel,
yeah, I mean they would need, I don't know.
no.
I'm not really
And
I yeah, I just like the film is fine on its own. We don't need a before and an after.
no, I mean the shorts were part of that
Yeah,
because of how big it was. It was like, let's make these shorts. And I think
yeah,
that's actually where some of the issues with Spielberg come into it because of what he owns and
yeah.
what Disney own.
Mm,
Um, so yeah.
yeah. And again, I think I definitely had um McDonald's toy of Roger Rabbit.
No, all I had was the VHS, the double video with the shorts
Oh,
on one and the film on the other.
I definitely had toys. I just don't know if they were from McDonald's or because obviously where I lived, and you would have been the same up until a certain point. But we had no Disney store in Aberdeen until 97.
Mm.
So the only way for us to get Disney toys was either McDonald's,
Yeah, that's where all mine are from, or Woolies.
I was just about to say Woolworths, or in the cereal.
Oh yeah. No.
So if there was a cereal, and if Kellogg's was doing a thing to do with a film, it was never really to do with Disney, but it would often be like other films.
Mm.
You could, you got a toy hidden
I
in the
got
cereal.
it was the trolls for me, the little trolls.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Um, yeah, I had those, and
yeah.
um, I think they were in Tetley's more than anything else. But
Mm.
we used to get like the little figurines, the Tetley tea people, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Jurassic Park coins and whatnot
Yeah, I
from
remember
all of
them.
them.
So yeah, I think I definitely had Roger Rabbit toys, and they would have probably either come from McDonald's or when my relatives had gone to America, they would have brought them back because you couldn't buy, not like you can buy now.
No, you can go in any shop and there's something Disney near enough.
Yeah, but back then it was really, really hard. Like we've said, it was Woolworths
Mhm.
because I stand that they weren't superstores then; they were just for groceries.
I don't even think we had an Asda until like the year 2000.
Oh,
So, and the Disney store, although it was open, I was never allowed to go in the Disney store because it was so expensive.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I still don't have, apart from the pins and the Christmas ornament, I don't have anything Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I've just got a Christmas ornament. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, my boys aren't interested in the film. When I put it on, they weren't bothered.
Trade them in.
Right, speaking of, so I think I can positively say that you like the
I do. I do. I ever since I first watched this scary cartoon-eyed villain
film.
included, it's always just been one of those Disney films that I just think are brilliant.
Yeah. It's one of those where I know when I put it on, it's like, oh my God, I forgot how good it is.
Yeah.
Like it really was. Like I was glued when I watched it for doing this episode. And I hadn't seen it properly in a few years. Um, but yeah, no, I was genuinely sat here, and even though I knew what was happening, like it was still glued.
Involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I was still involved. Yeah. Like the bit where he's in the cinema with them and he's trying to come up with a plan, and Dolores meets him.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I forgot about that scene. And and the bit when, Doom first enters the bar, he taps on the bricks. What's the song he sings?
Oh, is it the Yankee Doodle? Because it's the Looney Tunes. The
Is it?
or is that the bit
He
where the
speaks,
weasels die laughing?
yeah, because Doom speaks the words and he taps on the bricks, and then Roger can't help himself
He has to.
and he bursts through the bricks and finishes the song. I mean, that scene was so good
Yeah.
because Valiant is trying to cut the thing off and they're all distracting him in the back. Yeah, that was such a good scene. I mean, how they did that, the special effects for that was, yeah, very
Oh,
impressive. And coming through the bricks and yeah, no, it was. It was, I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to put out there now that I do love everything Roger Rabbit, and actually, I think, and only because I can't remember what my other scores were, but I think this might be my first five.
No, you gave a 5 to Black Cauldron.
No, no, I had two marks for that. As a Disney film, it's a three,
Oh,
but as a film overall, it's five.
yeah. Okay.
So technically a three on that one. So yes,
Okay.
this is my what I think my first five,
Wow.
and it deserves it.
I gave it a 4.
You're wrong.
Um,
Not even a four and a half.
but do you know what? Yeah, I'd change it to a 4.5. I would change it
Five.
to a 4.5. No, because I have to be in the mood for it. And I think it's simply because, you know, I saw it that many times when I was a kid. I like to wait so that I still get involved with the story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not one that I'll put it on. Oh, let I fancy Roger Rabbit. It's not that kind of film.
Oh no, see, it's just yeah, I could not fault it.
Yeah, I can't really fault it either, to be honest.
And I don't know who those on IMBD decided to do, what was it, 7.8? It's like, come on.
Yeah,
That
7.7 stars.
that's people wanting to go on just to mess around
Mm.
with the figures.
Oh yeah, well you get those people that are just so hard to please, aren't they?
Yeah, not me.
Oh
Not on
no,
this film.
not
Not on
speaking
this
about
one.
not speaking about you at all, Stephen.
No, no.
No, I think it pays homage to um that time. It's got an interesting story. It's got very obscure um lead characters. It's got a fantastic villain. Yeah. And yeah, like we said at the beginning, like it's an hour and three quarters, but I didn't feel it was an hour and three quarters. I could
No.
have sworn it was an hour and a half. So it just shows that it's got a good flow. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give it a five.
Yeah, yay.
I'm gonna have to change my score because yeah, thinking about it, I agree. I really can't fault it.
Yeah. And literally, like, bear in mind that I love little bits, with films where you like pick out errors and whatnot. Like,
Mm,
the fact that Gaston in Beauty and the Beast has no nipples, that kind of thing.
yeah,
The fact that I could only find the Mr. Toad,
yeah.
um, because the thing with Jessica Rabbit's knickers
Oh yeah,
is you never see. So basically, it's just the way it's coloured in,
I know.
and they've had to colour in on top to kind of it's that's just some dirty perverts wishful thinking, to be honest with you.
And it's the fact that, who watches a film in slow motion
Oh, I know.
to
And
even try and spot those things.
someone has sat there at that
Uh,
specific point as
I
well
know.
to try and see if you can see up that cartoon's dress. And I just think some people need to get a life. And
Yeah.
actually, do you know what? If she weren't wearing any knickers, I'd probably like her more.
Yeah. It's one of those films as well. It's such a shame to find out that there were some issues, not major issues, like we come to
Hmm.
when we come to this next load of films. But, the fact that we mentioned earlier that Zemeckis kept having to battle against what he was wanting to do. And yeah, it's funny because, they'll all pretend, that they were playing happy families and that, it was all worth it in the end. But this film nearly got ruined and nearly didn't happen because of too much interfering.
Yeah.
But
And
at the same time, having all those different studios involved, he should have known that he was not only gonna have a stressful time trying to get his vision on the screen to how he has visioned it,
mhm.
but that the stress of making all these suits happy that were fighting against each other, especially between Warner Brothers and Disney, and
And
how the thought that a handshake agreement
oh,
would work. I mean, oh, come on.
I think he did the right thing by just going, do you know what? I'm going to treat you all the same. I'm going to do my vision, my film. I've just done Back to the Future, and
Yeah,
you know, that was a bit of a
exactly.
hit.
Yeah,
What hits have you guys had recently?
yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, he definitely obviously had that attitude of, oh, well, the worst they can do is fire me.
Yeah. And if they
And they
had,
did
they
it.
would have lost millions on this film. So,
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that was yeah, that was a good. I'm glad like I got to watch that again. I mean, not that I had to do this episode to watch that film again, but it was nice to, sit down and watch it. And yeah, no, I mean, I don't know why I put down a four, to be honest. Because yeah, no,
you just
I
missed
agree.
out five.
Need the five, yeah. Because like you say, um, and we've agreed.
Yeah. This
We've
takes us
actually
back to
agreed.
right at the beginning when we were
I know,
agreeing on the
Snow
scores,
White.
and now
I know.
So, but yeah, no, I will stand by the 5
Yeah.
completely.
And no, it does not need to be re-looked at,
Oh,
remade, or no.
don't
Leave
go
it as
near
it
it.
is. Leave it
To
as
be
it is.
fair, when Bob texted me back about the sequels, the things before, he did mention Roger Rabbit, and I was like, "Oh, we're all right, thanks." I mean,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't know if he replied because I never look at my text, so who knows?
Right, on that note, we'll end it there because it's now, this was like the last one before we get to the the big the big part. The not the big part, sorry. The big era.
Yeah, these are the
The
big guns
main,
coming out
yeah,
now.
these are the big guns. That was what I was trying to say. The big guns. Yeah. So, yeah, if you are not already following us, hit the follow button because we are coming to the Renaissance era now. And obviously that starts with The Little Mermaid, which will be out soon. So hit the follow button. If you liked this episode, leave a review, and you can follow us on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and you can also listen and subscribe on YouTube. I don't think I missed anything out there, did I?
No, you can also email us.
Yes, yeah, email us as well. If you want to be a guest, or if you want to have, if you've got a question for us, or if you just want to, send us a nice message, you can email us at the Jamie and Stephen Show at outlook.com. Bye.
TTFN.